On January 2nd, 1975, when we were standing in the cold of the City Hall, I looked out over that audience and I thought, how hard we'd fought for home rule, my thought was, how great it is to be standing at the edge of tomorrow.
199 years after the country was established, its principles declared, and its government formed, Washingtonians were one step closer to full voting rights. In January 1975, 1 year before the nation's 200th anniversary, D.C.'s first elected city council was sworn in.
No one could have doubted the first day of home rule that the district knew how to govern itself.
With the city's first locally elected council, district residents could finally place their hope and trust in leadership they vetted and voted for. Sterling Tucker was chairman of the city's first legislative body. And after a long career in public service and activism, he was ready to help address the needs of district residents.
By getting an elected city council made a huge difference because we then were representatives of the people truly because they had selected us as their representatives. And we had to be very careful that we put together a kind of government that would allow us to utilize the power that we had.
That first council was formed by a group of ambitious pioneers: Douglas E. Moore, Marion Barry, Willie Hardy, David Clark, John Wilson, Polly Shackleton, Arrington Dixon, William Spaulding, Nadine Winter, James Coates, Julius Hobson, and Jerry A. Moore Jr. They would give city residents something they never really had before: a voice in their own government. With a council member for each of the city's 8 wards, plus 4 at-large members, the work began.
The council shall have authority to create, abolish, or organize any office, agency, department, or instrumentality of the government of the district, and to define the powers, duties, and responsibilities of any such office, agency, department, or instrumentality. With Section 412, Part A adding, the council shall pass acts and adopt resolutions.
But the newly minted council also had a greater duty. There were many long-running and unaddressed issues demanding its attention.
We had schools overcrowded, substandard housing that was allowed to be built without consideration, zoning, adequate architectural design, and escalation of police brutality and insensitivity.
In addition to being mindful of what it needed to do, and what city residents wanted it to do, the council had to contend with what it could not do. Despite the landmark legislation that created the council, federal lawmakers chose to retain control over city spending and to have final say in all legislative actions.
If you would ask the Congress, is there a reason why the Congress feels it should maintain at least some control over the government, most members of the Congress would lose their voice at this point.
Nonetheless, council members pressed forward. They were inspired and committed to the needs of the people who voted for them and who depended on them to make things happen.
When Home Rule came, it gave Ward 8 and Ward 8's issues a higher level of engagement. It then generated a synergy, a lot of synergy, as to these persons have to run on platforms that hopefully reflect the needs and interests of the citizens.
As for the council, it did what it could with what it had.
At some points, we were overly ambitious as to what could be achieved in the short term, but at least it was a start.
The assignments were made of establishing an educational format for the district. So that's when the establishment of the university came into being, and I was given the responsibility to pursue that.
Progress and autonomy were incremental for the council, and its limitations inspired bold action.
One of them had to do with mass transit. It was clear that on the onset of Home Rule, the subway would not go through Anacostia and Congress Heights. So that was a major platform activity. And I celebrate today, even now, with the result that the subway does run through the mass transit-dependent population area.
Since that cold January day in 1975, when the first council swore to advance the causes of the city, 71 men and women have been called to serve.
It laid a real foundation for lots of activity where the community could really be represented by those who they elected to public office. That gave us a start for a grand opportunity to move this government forward.
The journey on the road to representation continues, and today Mayor Muriel Bowser and the City Council embodied that fighting spirit, that drive to ensure that every D.C. resident is represented by a government of the people, by the people, and for the people.
We're talking about Washingtonians being tired of being second-class citizens. We are tired of politicians who are sent to D.C. to represent their states interfering with our state. We are tired of taxation without representation, of sending $6.5 billion every year to the federal government without one vote on how to spend it. And we are tired of watching bill after bill die and judge after judge confirmed in the Senate and not being able to do a single thing about it.
The value of statehood is manyfold. Not only is it the right thing to do in terms of democracy, but it will make a real difference in terms of our ability to self-govern.
Here in D.C., we have the values, the political will, the commitment to do better, and we're locked out of the national conversation. And we know what the solution is: statehood for Washington, D.C.
A government called to serve and to stand up for each generation of district residents on the continuing road to representation.